desk. Mr President, I give notice on the next sitting day I will move that this House notes A. On 4 June 2021, 21-year-old Kristo Langker, a producer of the FriendlyJordies YouTube channel, was arrested by the Fixated Persons Investigations Unit of the New South Wales Police Force. B. Mr Langker has been charged with 2 counts of stalking or intimidation with intent to cause fear or physical harm or mental harm in relation to 2 interactions with the New South Wales Deputy Premier, the Honourable John Barilaro MP, in the last few months. C. Media reports suggest that the charges relate to 2 incidents, including one at a Politics in the Pub event at Macquarie University in April, where Mr Langker and FriendlyJordies presenter Jordan Shanks, who was dressed as Luigi from Mario Brothers, approached the Deputy Premier and shouted, "Why are you suing us?" And the other on the day of the arrest, where Mr Langker approached the Deputy Premier on Hospital Road behind New South Wales Parliament and asked him, and I quote, "Deputy Premier, why are you suing my boss?" end quote, before the Deputy Premier got into a car and was driven off. D. Mr Langker's lawyer, Mr Mark Davis, has described his bail conditions as utterly extreme, that's a quote, prohibiting Mr Langker from possessing images or caricatures of Mr Barilaro or commenting on his personal appearance or behaviour. E. The Deputy Premier is currently suing Mr Shanks for defamation and lodged a statement of claim in the Federal Court on 27 May 2021. F. Media have reported statements by lawyers for the Deputy Premier saying Mr Shanks defamed the Deputy Premier in a series of videos that had brought him into public disrepute, odium, ridicule and contempt. G. The Fixated Persons Investigation Unit was established in 2017 in the wake of the Link Cafe siege and was created to monitor extremists and fixated persons who may not fall under Australia's counter-terrorism laws but nonetheless pose a risk of serious violence. H. At the time of the announcement, the new unit, New South Wales Police Commissioner Mick Fuller, referred to people who are, and I quote, obsessed about issues, ideals or individuals and are plotting acts of violence or capable of acts of terrorism. I. Media reports have cited responses by the New South Wales Police Force indicating that the Fixated Persons Investigations Unit investigates fixated persons, which is defined as someone who has an obsessive preoccupation pursued to an excessive or irrational degree with a public office holder or internationally protected person or other persons nominated by the Commissioner of Police or a cause influenced by an extreme ideology. J. Mr Langker previously held a press security pass to the New South Wales Parliament and has collaborated on media stories published by Michael West Media. And K. On 18 June 2021, the Honourable Wes Fang MLC was quoted in the media saying Langker, I quote, doesn't have journalistic credentials, end quote, and that Mr Barilaro was suffering, and I quote, unfair criticism, end quote, from, and I quote, what is effectively a Labor supporting comedian, end quote. 2, that this House expresses its concern over the escalation of the public dispute involving the New South Wales Deputy Premier, Mr Shanks and Mr Langker. And 3, that this House further expresses its concerns over the involvement of the Fixated Persons Investigations Unit in the investigation and arrest of Mr Langker, a person whose work includes journalistic endeavours and satire, and which raises questions about the potential politicisation of the New South Wales Police Force and has significant implications for freedom of speech in New South Wales.
Bring it on tomorrow.